and welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton. Today we are sitting, and I'm going to call it the D'Antoni Bourbon Bunker. Is that good enough?
It's perfect.
We're sitting down with Bob D'Antoni and Bill Straub of Four Gate Whiskey Company. And fellas, how's it going?
It's going great.
Going great, huh?
It's going really well. We just had a great anniversary party Tuesday night out at Watch Hill proper. It was the brand's in full speed, and we're happy to be with Scott with you and teach bourbon and Travis tonight.
Good deal. And Travis is our additional special guest for the night. What's up, Mr. Teach Bourbon himself?
How's everybody doing this evening?
Doing well, doing well.
Travis is like an adjunct professor for Four Gate. He's kind of part of us. And
it's a complicated subject to
is.
learn. It takes a lot of time to study.
A lot of Four Gate, a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to learn, right? I mean, you guys have put out how many batches so far?
We are on 20.
20.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Plus another one that didn't have a batch name, the Eagle Thief.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 21 releases.
And then 15 was the trilogy, so obviously three different releases there. And then we've just released another one. It's not out yet. Travis was just asking me about it here at the World Headquarters. It's a very small release. It's the Indiana Foundation 14-year-old, and that's going to come out probably in June once we finish bottling some of the 10-year-old Indiana Foundation.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's only going to be released in Indiana, is it not?
No,
Yeah, just one location.
Only in Louisville, one location.
There's going to be about 100 bottles for sale. That's
Gotcha.
it.
You're just jumping right into it.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about it in the kitchen. So, I mean, it's right there on the edge of there, and then there he brings it out. So
There you go.
it's 144 proof.
Oh,
So-
hazmat. I love that.
Yeah,
It's
so
glorious.
I mean,
I can't wait.
If it's over 165 proof, you're not allowed to sell it in a lot of states. So,
Right.
well, Bill and I wanted to keep it under.
Oh, did it come in hotter than 160?
No, we don't have water.
no.
We got lucky.
Okay.
No.
Good deal. Good
Uh,
deal.
Tank it.
No, this came in. Bill and I bought 3 barrels of this, and we bought 27 barrels of the 10-year-old. All this juice had been stored in California,
Gotcha.
and we brought it back maybe 6 or 8 months ago. When we brought it back, they told us the 14-year-old barrels are really light, and you should go ahead and tank it now. So we tanked our 3 barrels, and we bottled it. At the same time, we bottled 18, 19, and 20. And we got 129 bottles total out of 3 barrels. 3 barrels, 129 bottles. So
They were not cheap barrels, in case anyone was wondering.
yeah, and the other thing, Bill and I were trying to figure out the price, and a bunch of our colleagues were telling us in the whiskey industry, obviously, were saying you guys need to jack the price up even more. And Bill and I decided on $4.50 a bottle, where everybody else was saying you should go to $6.50 to $7.50 a bottle. So
The lowest I heard was someone said $4.99, and they said that's probably cutting it too low. I said we're just going to maintain the same margins we always do, and
Right.
it's not a lot of bottles, so it's not like you're going to make a fortune off of it anyway.
Right.
And we don't want to screw people and price everyone out of it.
That's completely.
But we're not going to sell it for less than it costs us to put it in bottles. So.
Absolutely. That's an honorable thing to at least try to keep your normal margins and things to that nature. So we kind of jumped ahead because we were just gung-ho talking and everything else. So if you guys don't mind, tell all the listeners out there, how did y'all get started? How did Four Gate become Four Gate?
I guess I'll kick it off. I had started a website called Modern Thirst back in the mid 2010s, I guess. Happened to be right time, right place. We got really popular, I guess, and started getting a bunch of hits every month. And I started getting hired started out with doing barrel picks for people when barrel picks were still a new thing. People didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to taste it. And then that morphed into some consulting for some of the bigger brands, and I got really sick of everyone bringing me out and already telling me exactly what they were going to do, and they just wanted me to tell them they were doing the right thing. And inevitably, it was the wrong thing. And I think I'm not allowed to say, but it bore out on the way the releases landed. But I had met Bobby through a mutual friend of ours, and he had me come out to Kelvin Cooperage here in Louisville. Fantastic craft cooperage, right on Outer Loop. And I had done a story on them, taken some photographs, and I just thought, man, walk through that warehouse, you look at all the different barrels they have, and they had 8 barrels of something really funky over there, and 20 over there, and 5 over here. And if you're one of the big guys, you don't care about 5 or 10 barrels. You know, that's a blip on your radar. You lose that much in your couch cushions every time your CEO sits down in the conference room, you know. And but if you're small enough, if you're nimble enough to take advantage of stuff like that, you can have a lot of fun with it. And there weren't a lot of people doing a lot of interesting barrel finishes at the time. Usually people would take kind of their youngest whiskey and their harshest whiskey, and they would put it in a finished barrel to cover up its flaws and then sell it. And I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to take the American version of Scotch and take some of our best whiskey and just kind of touch it in these barrels for a little bit of time, maintain the character of that American whiskey, but just add a little something to it. And I thought, you know, gosh, it'd be really cool if I had a partner who could do this with me, and it'd be really cool if Kelvin Cooperage would be interested. And I called up Bobby one night and I said, hey, do you think Kelvin would be interested? And he said, I don't know, I'll give him a call. And I said, do you think you would be interested in doing this with me? I need a partner. I don't think I got the sentence out, and he shut down his consulting business, was doing it full time. I kid. Yeah, so, you know, it just kind of, as soon as I mentioned it to Bobby, it just kind of took on a life of its own, and we just ran with it, and it's been a blast. And then Bobby can pick it up from there because he's in this every day, all day.
Yeah, and then, from there, Scott, we threw a bunch of names in the hat, started calling people. We got a hold of a couple of different suppliers and vendors that would help us out. And I told Bill, I said, hey, man, we got to name the company. You know, we got to name the company and form the LLC and get a federal license. And so we threw a bunch of names in the hat, and I threw probably 4 or 5 names in the hat. Bill threw in a half a dozen or so. And he called me back. You know, at the beginning, everything goes kind of slow because you're not doing anything, right? And so I'm like, hey, man, we got to name this company. We got to jump on this LLC. And he goes, hey, I think I want to use the Four Gate Fence name. I said, really? And he said, yeah. So the Four Gate Fence is a slang name for a 4-board or 4-rail horse farm fence in Kentucky. One of probably the most iconic image in our state. When you drive, whether you're on interstates or side roads, going through the horse farms, Versailles Road, just really anywhere. A lot of people have them on their personal houses on their properties are small farms. And so Bill said, let's go with the Four Gate. And so I started designing the label with that. Bill and I were really selfish on that, Scott, that because we didn't want to turn it over to an ad agency or a label agency and say, design it for us and name it for us and pick our glass. Bill and I picked our glass in probably 15 minutes, the cork too, and then we went through, I don't know, probably 20 different versions of the label to get to where we were. And then we were doing some other stuff and tweaking it, continually tweaking it. And like, you know, a couple of things that I did to the label at the beginning, like I told Bill, I said, I think we're going to do this watermark on the label for the Four Gate Fence on the front of the label and then on the back of the label as well. And the Four Gate Fence wraps around that bottle. And Bill's like, I think it sounds kind of stupid. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see once the labeler gets it.
That's pretty much exactly what I said, I think.
And then we put the Four Gate Fence on the tax stamp as well.
Yeah.
And you can see that on both sides.
Which I noticed that, but honest to goodness, the background on the actual Four Gate Fence, on the actual label, he just said it, and I think that might be only one of the first time I've ever noticed it, or that it's been like, that's what it was. That's kind of weird.
So in my defense, I'm a very visual person. You can tell me and explain it, and that's what Bobby did, and it just did not look anything like it is on a bottle. And he mocked one up and sent it over to me, and it said, Oh yeah, that looks actually pretty good, Bobby. Good call.
Yeah.
Right, and then I did a couple other changes to the label. Like I did another minor change to the label. Like after like 3 or 4 batches, I don't know, maybe 5 batches. I said, "Hey, Bill, what do you think of these new labels?" And he goes, "I don't see what you did." I said, "Well, you got to take a harder look at it." He goes, "I don't fucking see what you did." I'm like, "Okay." I added this new black line on the inside of it, and he goes, "Now that I'm looking at it, it looks like the other labels were misprinted." So I took this line here, Scott,
Yep.
around here, and we dropped it in on the inside here.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay, on the front, the subs, in the back, and also on the tax stamp. And I told Bill, I said, I think it looks really good. What do you think? He goes, I can't see what you're saying. And so, go ahead, Bill.
I'm just going to say that once he showed it to me, I couldn't believe we hadn't done it before. And every time I go back and I look at our first 2 labels, I think that they're just homemade
misprinted.
labels that
They're
were misprinted.
Yeah.
And I can't believe we didn't do them to start out. But it really, what Bobby's talking about goes to show you about how much time and effort goes into not just the whiskey, but the packaging. We feel like we know that we can't give this to you at the same price that a big distiller could. It costs them pennies on the dollar to put a 10-year-old whiskey in a bottle and sell it to you. It costs them nothing compared to what it costs us. But if we know that if you have to pay a premium for our product, we want it to feel and look like a premium product. So we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that those labels are perfect. And anytime Bobby or I can come up with something that makes them a little more perfect, we kind of roll with it. And we do the same thing with the cork. We had the choice early on. We could save a few cents here and there if we went with synthetic cork. We wanted the natural. It comes in from Portugal, and the glass comes in from Poland. We had extra long shrink sleeves on it, which cost a little bit more, but they just look better and they look a little more premium. And they don't cost the consumer anything. It costs us money. It comes out of our margins. But we just want to make sure that when you pick it up, whether you can tell it or not, whether you can vocalize it or not, when you hold that bottle in your hand, you look at it, we want you to think, this is premium. A lot of thought went into this packaging and this whiskey, and we want it to feel that way, we want it to look that way and taste that way.
Yeah, attention to detail is something that, especially in the bourbon industry at this point, means a ton, right? Packaging, labeling, the attention to detail on all the little things, whether it's the black line or the kind of woodcut image in the back piece there. That means a lot, because people, like you said, it distinguishes you from something that's just an everyday shelf product to a premium brand that you really want to buy and pick up.
We won't mail anything in either. It's always a long process and a lot of back and forth before we make any decisions on it. It's a lot of fun and a lot of time, but we hope it pays off.
Well, and Scott, the other thing is, Bill and I have bought only the most premium juice that we can find on the market. And when you have the opportunity to get that juice that we want, and as Bill said earlier, we're not trying to cover up the base juice that we have, then when you look at the color of our juice, you look at our bottles the way they are, and our bottles aren't fat. These are 3-inch bottles. Our new glass that we're going to is a 1/4 inch wider. But you look at that, 3 inches, without the back label shadow in it. You look through that. We want to look at it and see how dark the juice is, how good the color of it is. Because we really want to go off of color. We want to go off of the taste profile. Bill's great on the taste profile stuff. We've been doing this since day one. We want the color of the juice and the way we finish it, and we want it to really look good in the bottle. And if you're not buying the premium whiskey, you're not going to have the opportunity to have this. And we've never added water to any of our products. As Bill said, everything's going to be limited release, barrel proof. We're going to a standard release this summer on bourbon. We're going to go to the standard release this summer on some bourbon, and then we're going to go to another standard release probably 6 months later on the rye whiskey. Bill and I have been working with our distributors to do that, and But the bottom line is we want to have the best quality juice that we can get and not covered up or try to, we're not trying to cover up anything that we're doing.
Gotcha.
I would anything that we put in a bottle, I would drink on its own without the finishing. And that's been a very key point of what we do. If we don't like the blend of whiskey, we're not going to throw it in another barrel and try to make it taste good. We won't do that. We just won't blend it.
Right.
That's always been one of the hardest things trying to tell people about Forgate. They're like, oh, finished, it's expensive, whatever, and there's a lot of reasons why the price is what it is. But to me, I always like Bob told me one time, quick cooks. Like, this is good whiskey on its own, and y'all are just adding a little something to it, giving it some uniqueness. It's not going in these barrels to hide imperfections. It's taking good whiskey and then turning it into something even better, something special, something unique that you have admittedly said we can't really replicate it because the base whiskey, you can't get that again, or it's going to be different barrels. You can attempt to, like the Kelvin collaborations is somewhat of an attempt to kind of recreate that, the original batch, but it's always a little bit different. It's always
themes,
unique,
but not really the same exact thing. You know, when we were first conceiving the company, part of the big inspiration for this had been around a year or so of starting this company. I really started paying attention to other whiskeys other than American bourbon. So you start getting into whiskeys made in Taiwan, especially Scotch, obviously. I mean, that's the big one outside the United States. They can use any barrel they want. So if you think about Scotch, they generally use one grain. It's malted barley. But they have this flavor profile that's 20 feet wide because they can use any barrel they want. And if you've heard any expert in the U.S. talk about 80%, 85% of your color and flavor in your whiskey comes from the barrel, right? So in America, we use a new toasted charred cask every time. So if you're making a bourbon, there's going to be some variation in there, but by and large, if there's not some caramel, there's not some vanilla or something along those lines, you've done it wrong. It's got to be sweet and it's got to have caramel and vanilla because that's what the barrel does to the whiskey, period. If it doesn't have that, you've done something wrong with it. Now there's variation within that, but our flavor profile spectrum is, instead of 20 feet wide, is 5 feet wide. 8 feet wide, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot smaller than Scotch. When you walk around Calvin Cooperage and you see all this used cooperage out there that's been all around the world for all sorts of different products, and you start thinking, well, gosh, we could use this great flavors we get from bourbon and straight rye whiskey in America, and what if we took the good stuff and barrel finish it the same way Scotch starts in a port barrel? What if we took 6 months in a port barrel? What if we took 30 days and just accentuated those great American flavors that we have with some of these other spirits? And that's really what Forgate does, is we're trying to bring that type of philosophy, that blending and that finishing into American whiskey.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to cover up crap. We're trying to make good whiskey just a little bit better, just kind of accentuate it a touch.
right?
Enhance it.
And you guys do straight non-finished product as well, so you're not afraid to do that. Not everything's finished.
No, exactly. And the other thing is, what Bill was saying, the juice that Bill and I have bought over the last 3.5 years, we got the best whiskey on the planet in Forgate's inventory. Period, hands down. There's no one that's going to question it. I mean, we've got. I'm not going to get into the details, but we've got. A little over 1,000 barrels between bourbon, rye, multiple age statements.
We've got a little American whiskey in there.
Yep, and we're in a great position to move our company forward. It's been a lot of Bill and I've been doing a lot of great consulting work to Forgate to get this company where it is, and the opportunities going forward on the juice is endless. And what Bill was saying earlier, the cask that we just got from Calvin, we just got 23 beautiful casks that were Oloroso sherry rum. We're filling 8 of them with a rye whiskey. We're going to fill 15 of them with some of our 7.5-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Matter of fact, I think they get filled on Tuesday morning at BBC. We're genuinely excited about all these offerings. and we're trying to build this base a little bit larger. I know I'm going maybe going off a little script here for you, Scott, but we're trying to build this base a little bit bigger. Bill and I have been talking about it for the last 15, 18 months when we get into these other states. And in the last 8 months, 9 months, we got into Louisiana, Texas, and Illinois. And so this transitions our company into you add a couple more pallets, blah blah blah, but they're going to other states. The scarcity in our brand, and these other states are crying for it right now. And Bill and I are just grateful for what's being received in the market, how the Four Gates being perceived, and what we're able to deliver for them.
Let's talk about some of these batches we're drinking today.
That's what I was going to say. Let's jump into some of these. We've got the 4x4, which I think was the first one we decided we were going to sip on here.
Did we start with the Saint Charon?
No,
Did we-
Saint
Yeah.
Charon.
Oh, St. Charon, my bad.
Charon.
So the St. Charon is a 7-year minimum aged. It's barrel finished in a cognac cask,
It's Kentucky straight bourbon.
Kentucky straight bourbon, and it's
Yep.
coming in at about 119.2, which I tell you, it doesn't drink that hot. I mean, it drinks super smooth, super light.
It does. That's a 21% rye, so it's a high rye mash bill. It's just a great base whiskey. We've used it in a few different things so far, and we've used some older versions of it and a couple of the younger. But it's just a great. I feel like these spicy high rye whiskeys really take to those fortified wine finishes really well, and the dark rum as well. That spice and sweet kind of play off each other really well.
Yeah.
And Scott, that was released for Super Bowl Sunday this year, 2022.
Super Bowl Sunday. Okay, good deal. So and we'll cover these a little bit, but one thing that's near and dear to our heart is we do a lot of charity work with the podcast. We like to go out and help some of the nonprofits in the area raise money by buying bourbon and selling them through, private events and things like that. The Eagle Thief was a barrel that I tried, and I know that was kind of a charity project you guys took on. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'll fill that in on for you, Scott. So I designed. Bill and I decided that we wanted to do a charity release and a tribute bottle for Kevin McLaughlin, who passed away from cancer after about a 9 or 10 month battle, and we wanted to give the money to one of his main charity, which was the West End School. So I designed the label for Eagle Thief. I pulled up the colors from where he played golf at Pepperdine University. Those were the colors on the label. And Bill and I said, I think we ought to bring that color over to our private select cast last summer, and we did. But because we love that dark bluish purple, but that's from his school where he played golf, and he was the golf captain at
Pepperdine, huh?
At Pepperdine.
Now that's out in California, right?
It is. As an
Yeah.
avid golfer, can I say also that Kevin was a massively talented golfer, and in the city of Louisville, he's known very well against around everyone who plays golf regularly in all the interclub tournaments around, because he won his country club tournament like 17 out of 20 years. He was the club champion there, and everywhere he went, people would groan when he showed up if he was playing in a member guest or one of these tournaments where he was playing elsewhere, because they said, "Oh, Kevin's here, we got no chance." So golf was a big part of his life, and that flows through to the rest of the label here.
So is that how you all kind of began your Kelvin Cooperage kind of collaboration and the collaborative series?
That was just Bobby's relationship with
Yeah, I was good friends with Kevin from both of our sons played AAU basketball, and so I'd meet him at practices with our sons there, and then they had a really good team. They had a really good team at the end of sixth grade. And the coach said, we're winning all these tournaments. We ought to go to the Nationals in Virginia Beach. And so we decided to go to the Virginia Beach tournament, and even spent more time with Kevin. And he and his son Kyle and my son Zach were best friends. They still are today, even though, Kyle's at UK and my son's at LSU. They're still best friends. They talk all the time, text back and forth. But I wanted to circle back on that, Scott, on that bottle. So the Eagle Thief bottle, that was a tribute release to Kevin that I did. So the age statement we did, we wanted to do the age statement 10 plus 2. I asked the TTB to approve that. If they would, it's going to be a special release, a charity bottle. And so the plus 2 was that was his handicap. His golf handicap was plus 2.
He shot under par every time he played.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So,
I'm maybe a little jealous.
Yeah, and then the Eagle Thief, the batch is for making eagles, and obviously the Whiskey Thief. And I put that on the side, that label right there, with the golf club and that. And then the other thing that we asked the TTB to do, Scott, was the proof on the front of the bottle was, I asked him, I said, we're just going to add a little bit of water to it. We still want to call it barrel proof, but I want to do the proof at 122.7 because Kevin died on 12/27.
Oh, that's really cool. Man, the attention to detail is amazing there. As far
That
as
whole
that.
batch is a complete labor of love from Bobby to his buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one last comment I'm going to give you
Sure.
is on the back label here behind the word 4 and gate,
Oh, it's his initials, KM.
KM, and here it's rest in peace behind gate. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I never noticed it. I've seen this bottle multiple times and never noticed that.
Well, we give out the notes on 4gate, and I sent bottles all over the world for Kevin McLaughlin and Calvin Cooperage. Bill and I gave them, I think, 3 cases, and they said, "Oh no, we don't need that many." And then about a week or 2 into it, Paul called me up and said, or Kevin, not Paul, William Hornaday called me up, who runs the cooperage for Paul and Kevin, and William called me up and he goes, "I think we need like 8 or 10 more cases," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know if we can get them," and he goes, "No,
3 barrels.
I need them."
2 barrels.
And I'm like, okay, I'll see if I can get them. And so I had Republic deliver them to Justin's House of Bourbon downtown. And I think Travis may have even done the transaction with him or one of his old counterparts, Brian Booth. And they went in and bought all the bottles. And then Bill and I packaged them up. We did the notes on 4gate. Paul McLaughlin did personal note cards to people, and I shipped them all over the world for that bottle for Eagle Thief. And matter of fact, this is a funny story that, if you don't mind me adding this in, a friend of mine was at Peerless last week, and he said, "Yeah, I'm walking out of." I'm sorry, it was our banker. And he told us that Tuesday night, he said, "Yeah, I was at Peerless the other day, and our party was Tuesday night." He goes, "Yeah, I'm walking out of Peerless, and I look over, and on Corky Taylor's desk, he's got a bottle of 4gate." And I said, "Oh, that's amazing." He goes, "Why would he have that on his desk?" I said, "I'm sure it's the Eagle Thief bottle that Kevin McLaughlin gave him." So it's pretty cool that Corky's got that bottle full unopened on his desk at because Corky and Kevin, Paul, Calvin Cooperage, they got a display at their cooperage. A display at their distillery for Calvin Cooperage, and everything that they do at Peerless is for Calvin Cooperage, and they've only used their cask since day one.
So just to kind of put a cap on the Eagle Thief batch, we pretty much everyone involved with this, from the distributors to retailers, everyone cut their margins so that we were able to take almost all the profits from this batch and give it to Kevin's charity of choice, the West End School of Louisville. So we presented them a big check from this. They were very grateful for it, and great charity, and we, we just felt like we needed to honor Kevin. He was very instrumental to our company. So
that's great that everybody was willing to take a haircut in order to do some good in the hood.
Yep.
So
They
that's really good when you can do that. So this 4x4, I just tried that, the rum finished. Man, that thing's that's gonna be dangerous.
there weren't a lot of bottles of it, so drink up.
Yeah, get that wherever you can. So the 4x4 was we dumped our first 15 barrels of the 9-year-old. This 9-year-old juice, Scott, averaged between 89 to 106 proof.
Yeah.
So not very high. And when we only bottled I think 636 bottles. So not much, right? We offered it to 3 states and a couple of the guys online. It's all gone. It's 103 proof. As a 9-year-old, I mean, it's
That's a 9-year-old Indiana Indiana straight bourbon. The bourbon is some of the best stuff we've ever had on its own, even
Right.
before we finished it.
Yeah, it's insane. And we got those barrels from a good friend of ours, and I think he's cool with me saying it. So it's from Jordan Morris at Rolling Fork.
Okay, yeah.
And
I love Turner and Jordan.
Yeah. So we got the barrels from them. We can't say where the barrels came from, but we think they came from the Caribbean and
Barbados.
It says
maybe.
Barbados on the side, or Barbadian. I've never seen it. I've never seen it said Barbadian. It's like barbarian.
It's like Australian.
Right.
It's funny.
Canadian.
Bobby actually looked it up, and Barbadian is the textbook correct way to say it. But someone else who was actually from Barbados told me that like everyone else calls them Barbadian, but we call ourselves, and I can't even remember what it is at this point. But it was something completely different.
That's what you should have used on the bottle, whatever they call themselves. That would have been funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would have loved to.
How
I
would you
just
find
didn't
out?
see it. I mean, it's like when you say, is it Australian? Like we use Australian tiny port and Australian a pear of sherry.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
But I did the same thing when Bobby first showed me how he had submitted to the TTB. I said, Barbadian, is that right? And he said, look it
looked
up.
it
And
up.
I was on the phone with him. I looked it up. I said, son of a bitch, I think that's right.
You can't say where it came from, but it's 4x4.
Right.
No comment.
No comment.
4x4.
Don't get us in trouble. What are you
That's
trying
why
to
I
do to
said
us?
it.
4x4.
Right.
Huh.
4x4.
I wonder where that's from.
I'm not sure. It's from a.
It's a car. It's a car. My car's
yeah,
4-wheel drive.
Yeah,
It's a great piece of wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from a company in the Caribbean that
Makes rum.
Makes good
They make
rum.
They make
makes
good
good rum, and we decided to do the sub-label name 4x4.
Just
Yeah.
random.
4x4.
Totally
The funny thing is that's a square, right?
Totally random.
Something like that.
You guys are evil.
So this one to me is intriguing, not because of the 4x4 stuff, but I am currently obsessed with low proof, barrel proof whiskey.
I'm getting right there with you. I
So-
still love hazmat, but
It has its place, but I just that's low proof, extra water, more wood sugars. Just love the depth of flavor. So when Bobby first tried me on this, I was like, okay, I want to get a bottle of all of them, but that was like I'm gonna do everything I can. So I love it. I personally think it's one of the best of the last handful. So great stuff.
It's funny you say that because I've always said, I mean, all the way back to my Modern Thursdays, I always said I prefer barrel strength bourbon. But people always mistook that as me saying I like the higher proof, the better. That's not the case. I just don't want it watered down. I want full flavored bourbon.
Right.
And if that full flavor is 105 proof, that's even better than if it's 145 proof. Now, don't get me wrong. If I can get 145 proof sometimes, that's really good. It blows my socks off, and I love it. It's rare, but 105 is awesome.
yeah, that 2016, and I hate to bring up another brand, but that 2016 GTS, that 144 point, I mean, that stuff's delicious. I mean, it's just delicious. And it's hard to find something that's that hot that brings that much flavor and that much thing. So I'm anxious to try this other one right here that you got that's bringing that. And I will tell you this, I love the fact that you guys are so transparent about your things and things like that, but the twist that you put on it, the fact that it's Dearborn County.
You know what's funny is
Most
Bobby
people
and I
have no
kind of
idea where
argued.
Dearborn County is.
Bobby and I kind of argued over that because I wanted to say Indiana and he wanted to say Dearborn County. I said, that's stupid. Nobody knows what Dearborn County is. And he said, that's the point.
That's the
I
point.
said, okay, yeah, you're probably right on that. Let's go with it.
It's priceless and it's funny, and for us Hoosiers, because I am a Hoosier, I really appreciate the humor behind that. So,
Well, and then our broker, not our broker, but our guy or contact up there, that was the only phone number I got when Bill and I started Forgate. I got one phone number from Kevin McLaughlin, and he said you ought to call this guy. And then when this came around, I did this. And we had already done some other stuff with the Indiana juice. And I told Bill, I said, I think I'm going to label Dearborn County for the county that Lawrenceburg, Indiana's in. And then I texted up to my main guy up there. And he's like, there's no way you're doing that. I said, yeah, we got the bottle out now. And we got a couple other bottles coming out. No, we're not going to do our single barrel, the private select cask with that Dearborn County on it, on the Indiana juice. We're doing it on the bottles from us. Bill and I wanted to have that type of separation, mainly from him more than me, and I'm completely good with it on the private select cask barrels. But I thought it was kind of cool. We released that that way. We released the 4x4 the same way, Scott, that says Dearborn County on it.
right.
And just kind of cool to shout it out. I mean, people do, Woodford. People do Nelson County. They do other ones that people that are familiar with. When I sent it up to the guy up at MGP, he's like, that is so nice that you gave me the shout out for Dearborn County. He said the county I grew up in, my wife did. We both work here now. To have that on the bottle and Forgate acknowledges that, we're extremely grateful. That's awful nice.
Well, it only helps the county, right? I mean, it only helps in that situation, Now, granted, that distillery's not giving tours out by mass quantities or anything to that nature, but I like to think in the future that it will become a destination where people can visit and enjoy what's going on there.
It will probably require a little bit of construction because it's not exactly
No, you're
made to be
100%
a
right.
scenic. It's not an arboretum like Maker's Mark or something, but it's we're proud to use it when we do use their stuff, and we don't use it on every batch by any means. We use very very few of our batches other than the rye,
right?
But we're proud to. I think they make some of the best whiskey in the world, and we pick the best that we can from them, and we're happy to use them. I think it's great stuff. In this 14-year, if you're tasting that right now, is some of the best whiskey you will ever have.
I just keep nosing it, dude. I mean, the nose on this thing's ridiculous.
I may not be the best paladin in the world, but I feel like I'm at least competent, and I'm telling you that it is one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. And that's why it's in that format and not anything else.
Right. And how cool does that look when you're looking at that, Scott, and says Dearborn County?
No, that's what I said. It was one of the first things I noticed. And for me, like I said, being a Hoosier and knowing the history and the heritage and everything else behind that, because I've done a lot of like testing and history and like looked up different things, and there's a couple of really cool things that happened in Clark County that people don't know about, or in things to that nature. So I appreciate the attention to detail and also the transparency all at the same time.
Well, yeah, and we just wanted to show respect to my buddy that's up there, Perry Ford.
You use Perry? Okay,
you
I know Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, Perry's is a very good friend. Matter of fact, if you know him, I'm going to take 2 seconds and grab this bottle behind you because we named before Bill's got to go, and I know he's got to go.
We got to be respectful of Bill's time.
So we did. We did a bottle, Scott, of our rye whiskey in Australian tiny port cask.
Yep.
And there was a couple guys that helped us out with the rye whiskey. One guy out of Chicago and another guy out of Indiana. That's not it.
No.
And I'm going to grab it right here for you real quick. Just let me put my mic down. I'll be back in 3 seconds.
So, Bill, while he's doing that, tell us a little bit more about like what's to come in the near future. What's Forkgate's next couple of plans over the next couple of years, and
absolutely. So one of the we've talked about it a little bit. We have this 14-year Indiana foundation, and foundation. We had this idea. I talked to Bob about it before we even had the name of the company. We were going to barrel finish as a rule. That was going to kind of be our standard thing because we wanted to be a little different. I'm not going to try to replicate what the big guys do every day. I can't compete with them on price, so I shouldn't try. But occasionally we were going to come across some whiskey that we just felt like was too good to barrel finish. And we would call that foundation, whatever we did, because great whiskey is a foundation, whatever we do. We're never going to put a bad whiskey in a bottle and try to cover it up. So we had our batches 3 and 5 were Kentucky. It was just called Foundation. It was phenomenal whiskey. If you ever get a chance to try one of those, do it. Now we did a Tennessee Foundation because our Tennessee distributor didn't get any of that Kentucky stuff, so they asked us to do some Tennessee whiskey in the same vein. So we did a 10-year Tennessee bourbon. That's fantastic.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's technically
it's Tennessee whiskey, right?
It's Tennessee bourbon. It's bourbon. It's not
Bourbon.
whiskey. It is not whiskey.
So it is whiskey, but it's also bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not. It didn't go through the Lincoln County process.
I get it.
So anyway, we did I thought we did it as well as that whiskey could be presented. I thought we did about as good as we could.
We got 94
now,
points from Whiskey Advocate.
Yeah. So now Indiana Foundation, we've come across some 10-year and some 14-year stuff. And these barrels, we've had other whiskey from them that's really good. These are just exceptional barrels. There's just a great lot of whiskey, the 14-year and the 10-year. So we have that coming up this summer. We're going to release the 14-year at one location at one time. At the same time, we're bringing out the 10-year, and I don't want to call it a consolation prize because it's fantastic whiskey too.
Dude, this 14 is legit.
But if you can't find the 14, you're going to be able to get the 10, which will be batched as well. And it'll be a 10-year, lower proof, obviously. This is 144, I think, on the 14.
On the 14, yeah, it is.
It's up there. But we've got that coming out this summer. We're really excited about that because, because of COVID, there haven't been a lot of the big bourbon releases. You haven't seen people all flocking to a store to pick up something, and we're kind of hoping to recreate a little bit of that magic. I'm not saying that we can drive the same traffic that some of the other guys can, but we'll see what we can do with it. We'll have a little fun with it, and we've got a lot of other projects. We've got a lot of whiskeys coming out. We're going to do a standard release of a split stave bourbon. It'll be a 7-year Kentucky straight bourbon in split stave barrels. You'll be able to buy that year round in the states we're distributed in, starting this summer, end of the summer, late or early fall. Sometime next year, we'll probably follow that up with a rye as well. So you'll be able to buy those year round. In any state we're distributed in, and we can replicate those. We have enough stocks right now where we feel like we can do that indefinitely.
So before we jump into the Perry thing, you mentioned the states you're distributed in. If you don't mind, we let the listeners know what states they can find you in currently.
Absolutely, it's Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Indiana, Louisiana, Texas, and now Illinois. As of roughly around now.
So 7 states.
Yeah, 7 states.
Mainly the Midwest. And then
mainly Midwest. You can also find us on bourbonoutfitter.com, caskers.com, and sealbox.com. So if you're not in one of those states we distribute to, you can probably get us online at those different.
And they distribute to most states, if not all.
42 or
42, 43,
yeah,
something like that.
It changes on a weekly basis. We can't keep up with it. So.
Gotcha. So 7 states.
Yeah.
Mainly the Midwest, Indiana,
Yeah.
Kentucky, Illinois, all that good stuff. Tennessee, and then you said Mississippi was down south?
No, it's Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I heard one of the southern states there.
We are doing, so before COVID hit, we actually gave a couple barrels to a local brewery, and they did a porter. Aged in that. It's Third Turn Brewery in Jeffersontown, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
So May 20th is what we're shooting for right now. We're going to try to do a tapping of the kegs. So they've had two barrels of that stuff waiting to roll for us for 2 years now.
And now are you going to get them back and then refinish something?
Nah, probably not. I'm guessing those barrels are long gone. They kegged them a long time ago. So those things would be 30 proof by now, so we can't have that.
Yeah, I hear you.
We can't have that. We can't have people keeling over after one little tulip glass of beer.
Right.
I mean, we could, I guess, but
right.
That'll be fun.
I'm going to bring this last one up before Bill had to take off. So this is one of the ones that we're going to be bottling at the end of May. And Scott, want to introduce this to you. This is, by the way, it's our new glass because we couldn't get glass. And we finished this whiskey in Australian tawny port cask. And this has been in a tank for probably 6 or 9 months now. We already finished it. And but one of our brokers out of Chicago, and his last name is Perry, and our good friend out of MGP, his first name is Perry. So I don't want to disclose anything for anybody that needs to know anything. So Bill and I named this batch Straight Rye Whiskey, finishing the Australian Tawny Port Cask, and I named it Port Perry Perry. So Perry for the guy in Chicago, Perry for the guy at MGP. And when I had lunch with the Perry in Indiana, and I showed him the label that we were going to do, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. He's literally, he was almost in tears at lunch. And then I called our broker in Chicago, and I told him that we're naming it after him too. Is it cool if we use your name on the label? He goes, yeah, it's really cool. He goes, and he said, now that you've told me, if you change the name, I'm going to fucking kill you. That's a quote. That's a quote.
There we go.
When he's out of Chicago, he literally knows people.
I was about to say, he knows people.
Can we put that on the back label?
Yeah.
If you
I'm
change the
gonna
name, I'm
fucking
going to fucking kill you. That's right.
If you change the name, I'm going to fucking kill you.
This is a PG rated podcast.
We go wherever you want to go, man.
No, I'm just being honest.
Let my Tourette's roll.
Scott, I'm just trying to be honest and share with all your listeners and the people that want to listen to your podcast and hear Bill and I talk that we're giving them genuine information,
Yeah.
right?
No, I appreciate it, and I know the listeners do. I mean, we're in like 40-something countries now, and all the states, and so we've got a vast group of folks that are listening to us. And when they come to the States, I had one guy reach out to me, and he was so excited about one of the interviews that we did, and he was like, he goes, I went to that distillery, I went and tried it and things and it was like a small mom and pop's distillery in Indianapolis. And he was like, I had the best time. And I'm like, that's what this is about, right? You go out and you meet with people and you do different things, and
Experience is part of the
everything, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I'm at, I told Bill, I said I had a tasting this afternoon at 3:45, 4 o'clock downtown at Justin's House of Bourbon. And I don't even know who I'm meeting. And he and his wife are there, and they're like, oh, my God, I didn't know if I was going to meet you or Bill or both of you or whatever. We've been looking forward to meeting Forgate for like 6 months. I'm like, this is just crazy.
right.
So, but then we had a great tasting for like 45 minutes, and they had already bought probably 8 or 10 bottles. Forgate, and I turned them on to a bunch of different stuff, and we had a great time. And you just never know where it's going to go, Scott.
100%.
There's nothing better than when you're just hanging out in a place, having a couple of drinks, and someone comes in. If you're at a liquor store or a bar, and someone comes in and orders Forgate down the couple of benches down from you, a couple of bar stools down from you, and someone says, "Well, the owner's sitting right there. You want him to sign your bottle?" And the guys come up and I say, "Hey, if you want it to lose all value, I'll put my name on it. Otherwise."
I got a funny story we'll tell you when we get off air. So to be respectful of time, because I know Bill's got to get out of here, how do people find you? If they want to find your product, if they want to find you, if they want to look at your website?
ForgateWhiskey.com. You can find us, just search for Forgate Whiskey on Twitter and Instagram. And we got a Facebook group, Forgate Whiskey Community. That's where we interact a lot more on that than with anything else. But we're on all the. I guess I would call them the three, but I think TikTok and the kids will say there's some other ones now.
Well, and then our basic Scott, our basic emails are both of the same. It's Bob at ForgateWhiskey.com, Bill at ForgateWhiskey.com. Super simple. Give us a shout out, and then you can if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to us through Justin's House of Bourbon or Watch Hill Proper. All those guys know Bill and I personally, and they can help you out.
Good deal.
I try to answer everything that comes in from social media. personally. I'm not promising that stuff doesn't slip through the cracks because we get a lot of emails.
Right.
But I try to be pretty proactive with that. So
That's good. So if you want to find Fourgate, they just told you how. You can email Bill at bill@fourgatewhiskey.com or Bob at fourgatewhiskey.com. Also, if you want to connect us with Bourbon Barrel Talk, if you don't feel like hitting them directly, you can touch base with me or you can touch base with Travis at Teach Bourbon, and we'll try to get those questions answered for you. You know, Travis has been a great help for us in the podcast here over the last year or two. So if you want to, do that. Also, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those good things. Travis, anything for you, man?
I'm not as funny as Matt, but hopefully I contribute more. But no, I appreciate
funny looking or funny. Wait, what are we talking about here?
I mean, if it's Matt, it is funny looking too.
I kid.
Jumping out.
No, but I just appreciate this opportunity, and I'm glad we finally were able to make this happen. And I don't think this is going to be the last time. So I'm just glad to be here in the world headquarters, and it's like another great day in Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hey guys, raise your glass. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Scott,
me.
Salute.
Travis, Bill, thanks for making it in. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Making it in like I flew in from Phoenix or something here.
Bourbon Barrel Talk signing off.
Fresh
Peace
off
out.
the
Cheers.
golf course.
Cheers.